And more breaking news now, this time in the U.S. Senate race in Florida. Democratic Senator Bill Nelson conceded to Republican Rick Scott last hour. Nelson has been a U.S. Senator for nearly 18 years, and he released this statement just moments ago.
Well, things worked out a little differently than Grace and I had hoped, but let me say I by no measure feel defeated. And that's because I've had the privilege of serving the people of Florida and our country for most of my life. And I don't think anybody could have been as blessed. It's been a rewarding journey as well as a very humbling experience. I was not victorious in this race, but I still wish to strongly reaffirm the cause for which we fought. A public office is a public trust.
All of this happening after Florida's recount actually ended today, showing Governor Rick Scott leading by little more than 10,000 votes. Our Ryan Nobles is in Tallahassee. So, Ryan, after this concession, now what?
Well, Fred, I think in many ways this Florida recount, which was pretty dramatic, at least in the early days, ends in many ways with a whimper instead of a bang. A taped statement here from Senator Bill Nelson where he officially concedes this race. And now we know that Rick Scott will definitively be the next senator from Florida. And I think it's important to point out that the results we saw on election night, while the numbers did change dramatically, there's never really any real hope that there were enough votes out there for Bill Nelson to overcome Rick Scott's margin of victory, even through two exhaustive recounts of the 8.5 million votes that were cast here in Florida. After that machine recount, the margin was about 12,000 votes. Then after the hand recount, it went down to 10,000 votes, but still not enough. Rick Scott will become the next senator. I think, Fred, in terms of formality, the elections board here in Florida will meet on Tuesday to certify these results. That's just a formality, and that will officially make it clear who the next governor and senator will be from the state of Florida. But the big question is, what does this mean for Florida going forward? This is obviously still a 50-50 state. Democrats had high hopes here. They thought that Bill Nelson could hang on. They thought that Andrew Gillum, who was an up-and-coming Democratic star, African-American, had the potential to make history as the first governor. It didn't turn out that way, but it was so close. It's been a while since Democrats were able to win here statewide. So, Fred, the question is, are they competitive in 2020? Because this will be a very important state in the upcoming presidential election.
All right, Ryan Nobles, thank you so much. And the president is weighing in on this via Twitter. From day one, I'm quoting his tweet now, from day one, Rick Scott never wavered. He was a great governor and will be an even greater senator in representing the people of Florida. Congratulations to Rick on having waged such a courageous and successful campaign. All right, let's bring in Mark Caputo, senior political reporter for Politico Florida. All right, the count is over. Nelson has conceded. Any surprise here? I mean, it was going to be tough to try and find 14,000 votes, but now there's a 10,000 vote difference between the winner and the one who doesn't win.
Right. Well, maybe not a surprise, but the relief here is that Senator Nelson is not going to contest the election. And so this is finally over. I think some spotlight needs to be recast in Broward County, which was the ground zero for so many problems. There's a strong argument to be made that the bad ballot design, if it didn't cost Bill Nelson the election, it greatly cost him. You know, he is down 10,033 votes officially in the final count. But if you just do some statistical analysis on what the Senate race likely would have received relative to the governor's race in that county, Nelson would have lost by only 287 votes. Or if the county performed like its neighboring counties in South Florida, Nelson might have actually won by about 637 votes. Yeah, so hindsight's 2020. It's kind of unfixable. Right. But I think Brenda Snipes, the Broward County election supervisor, her days are numbered. Now, she signaled she might quit. One of the reasons she did that is that we had reported last week that either Governor-elect DeSantis, when he becomes governor, or Governor Rick Scott after the recount, is going to suspend her from office. And there's a lot of Democrats who support that idea as well.
Except that people voted for her in that office.
Yeah. They did, but the Florida Constitution gives a governor the right to suspend a constitutional officer for, quote, incompetence, as well as other things. And Brenda Snipes' election supervisor predecessor, Mary Oliphant, in 2003, was suspended for botching the 2002 Democratic gubernatorial primary. So there's both history in election supervisors in Broward botching election results and getting removed. Incidentally, just yesterday, Broward admitted, like, hey, we can't find 2,000 ballots in the vote tally here from the manual recount compared to our initial count. And then Supervisor Snipes said, well, the ballots are in the building. You know, elections and election supervising are about tracking ballots, and they're not even doing that well there.
And this does not help instill a lot of confidence, you know, in the voting public, which wants to, you know, believe that they can count on their vote to be counted. So really quickly, there's going to be a lot of reflection, not just on the election, you know, system, the ballots and all that, but also on Nelson, who has been in office, you know, serving for 18 years. He'll be reflecting on what possibly went wrong, or what are Florida voters saying by sending Rick Nelson to the U.S. Senate?
Well, what I could say definitively is what's wrong with the Democratic Party's base. They tend to massively underperform or underperform relative to their numbers compared to Republicans. And in previous elections, we heard this excuse, oh, there's not a true progressive on the ballot. Oh, there's a boring white guy on the ballot. Well, here we had a true progressive in Andrew Gillum, and then we had, in the estimation of many, a boring white guy in Senator Bill Nelson. And they still lost. Democrats didn't come out in force relative to the registration numbers and compared to Republicans. So the Democratic Party needs to do a little soul searching on how it can motivate its base, or perhaps figure out how to change its base, because right now it's not working.
All right, Mark Caputo, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, straight ahead.